Stranger to us. We first interacted with him in 2011, and I'll tell you all about that in just a moment. But I want to show you the track coach. This is Jarvis Young. He's 40 years of age. That's right. A 16-year-old victim told his mother that the coach touched me inappropriately on this Saturday. The mother said, well, you need to report it just as soon as you get to school, and that's what our victim did. He went to our deputy, who's the school resource deputy at Lakeland High School, and he said, hey, I've been sexually battered, I've been touched inappropriately by the track coach. Of course, we immediately called our detectives, and we determined he was not only touched, that he was actually sexually battered, in that the track coach committed oral sex on him. That set of circumstances began on Saturday, August the 26th. He went to school Monday morning, and which would have been the 28th, and our investigation began. During the investigation, surprisingly enough, the track coach fled the state of Florida and was gone for a period of time. However, as we went through the investigation, we learned this. We learned that Jarvis made admissions to us. He, by his statements, admitted that he was HIV positive. Did you hear what I said? I didn't stutter. He tried to and briefly had sex with a child knowing he was HIV positive. So it all occurred when our victim, who was working out over the summer because he's an athlete, was sore, and he wanted to become more competitive. So he went to his coach and said, can you help me with my strength training and my speed? I need to get stronger and I need to get faster. And Coach Jarvis Young said, sure, I can. So he went by the victim's house on the 26th and picked him up and took him to lunch. They went to a Mexican restaurant. They talked at the Mexican restaurant for a while, and he said, well, I've got some weight equipment. Come with me. We'll pick the weight equipment up. We'll take it to your house. And they did that. And they started putting it together, and there were some parts missing, so they had to make a side trip down to, I believe it was Home Depot or hardware store. And then Jarvis Young, the coach, said, I need to put up some equipment at the school. How about going to the school with me? Once again, this is on Saturday. So the kid goes with Jarvis to the school, and Jarvis had told him at lunch that he was a trained massage therapist. Now, we don't see any evidence that he's certified, but he told the kid that. Now, understand, he told the kid, I'm a trained massage therapist. He buys him lunch, and he also gives him equipment. We call that grooming. So they go to the school, and they start putting up whatever sports equipment they were dealing with, when the coach, Jarvis Young, said, hey, I'll massage those hamstrings that are causing you problems. So Jarvis begins to massage the hamstrings and tells the young man, flip over. And he's continuing to massage and stretch his legs, and then all of a sudden, he grabs our victim and briefly sexually batters him before the victim jumps up and says, take me home. He drove him home, and it was reported to us. So if you can't believe that's horrific enough, we arrested, once again, Jarvis Young in 2011 for conspiracy to commit sexual battery on a juvenile when he and another adult took two juveniles to a motel to have sex. Well, we ended up making an arrest on that. However, the charges were dropped because it wasn't reported to us until the statute of limitations, as they were at that time, had expired. So this guy got away with sexual battery. It's also reported to us that he used to be an athlete at the school and was known to hang out prior to being hired by the school to hang out there as well. And he hung out around the sports programs. He's a classic predator, child predator. He's a classic pedophile. In 2017, he supposedly had a young man in the car with him and grabbed him on the leg inappropriately, but just grabbed him by the leg. That turned out to be a battery. But during the course of the investigation, it was reported to the police department. During the course of the investigation, the family became uncooperative, so the police were therefore unable to bring criminal charges. During the course of the investigation, we picked rumors up, and that's why I'm classifying them today clearly as rumors, because we've not run this information to ground and don't have it solid in writing yet. But the rumors were around Coach Jarvis Young. Hey, he'll give you stuff, but don't let him touch you. Did you hear that? The kids that knew him from sports said he'll give you stuff, but don't let him touch you. That tells us one thing clearly. He has battered, possibly sexually battered, inappropriately touched other kids for that rumor to spread among them. We strongly believe he has inappropriately touched, battered, or possibly had sex with students in the past based upon the rumors that swirl around him, and they continue to swirl upon his arrest. It's imperative that if your child has been battered, inappropriately touched, whether it's a misdemeanor or not, that you report that to us as soon as possible. It's important to understand that our school officials, Mr. Hyde, our superintendent, who is a remarkable superintendent and does a really great job, is angry, to say the least. He is preparing or has prepared a statement that he's going to release to the media. However, he's doing a deep dive into all of this, saying why was this guy around the students, and what was the history, and what did we know, and when did we know it. And he's taking some proactive measures now that it's come to his attention. Those that may want to be critical of the superintendent need to understand he's got 13,000 people that work for him. And if somebody hears something or sees something and they don't tell him, they don't say something to the appropriate people, then it's very difficult to react. But do we believe there were people that knew that he had inappropriate contact with children? You betcha. And we need people that saw something or heard something to say something. This investigation goes on. He got away with this before, and he wasn't smart enough to quit because he's addicted to having sex or trying to have sex with teenage boys. He's already HIV positive. We suspected him of being HIV positive in 2011, but he's admitted to us that he was, and we're taking him at his word. Okay, are there any other questions before I wrap up?
Sure. I know you kind of laid out the situation before and how the charges were dropped, but how concerning is it to you that he did, it appears, slip through the cracks and be able to be a high school coach?
Well, once again, it is disturbing. It is remarkably disturbing. You know, we have a rule of law, and we have to respect that. But there was an arrest record on him. So before he was allowed to be a paid coach, he was not a school teacher. He was just a paid coach. That's all he did. Before he was allowed to do that, what kind of background did they complete at the school? That's a lot. That is a lot of questions, and the questions that the superintendent has right now. And the superintendent's going to do a deep dive and get answers to all of that. But the reality is, When they hired him as a track coach, he had a 2011 arrest history, even though he was found not guilty, or they had to drop the charges because of the statute of limitations. So there was a proclivity for him to do things that were inappropriate. And for those of us who deal with these issues, we know that the people who engage or try to engage in this kind of behavior, statistics and research shows us, don't change what they want to do. So someone should have done a background, an appropriate background, and said, hey, dude, we know that you weren't convicted of anything. We know you were arrested for it, but we just need to move on.
The way you described it made me think of the doctor arrested that was associated with USA Women's Gymnastics. And it's kind of that trust between athlete and doctor, athlete and coach. What do you think this portrayal of trust is?
Well, it's evident to me. He's an athlete. He wants to get better. He goes to his coach, and he says, hey, coach, I want to get stronger. I want to get faster. His coach takes him to lunch, buys him lunch, grooms him, gives him weight equipment, takes it home, helps him put it together, and then says, oh, by the way, I need some help down at the school preparing some sports equipment. So he goes to the school with him on a Saturday, where he's alone. He's already groomed him at lunch after our victim says, man, I'm sore from all these workouts. Hey, I'm a massage therapist. You know, I'm angry. The community's angry. And every mama and daddy are angry. Make no mistake about it. This guy here is evil that will groom a 16-year-old kid, take advantage of that position of trust in order to sexually batter him. And when he made that abrupt action, the kid jumped up and said, take me home. But there are thousands upon thousands of school teachers in this Polk County school system that work hard every day, and they do what's right, and they make children better, and they help them. This guy, as a coach, has embarrassed the school system, but make no mistake about it, he is the rare, rare exception to the rule. Our goal, though, is to appropriately take him before a court and let the jury decide whether or not he needs to spend a very long time in prison, and they'll make the final determination. Yes, sir.
Going off of that story, you know, a lot of survivors might be afraid to come forward. Maybe they're fear that they won't be believed. You mentioned there might be more students who might be a victim of this. Do you have a message for them if they're just afraid to come forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. My message to the students is we're going to believe you, and we're going to protect you, and we're going to make sure you have any counseling or infrastructure for support that you need. But you can't allow this bad man to hurt anybody else. Emotionally, physically, you've got to help us. We need to know everybody that he has attacked or tried to attack. And predators, sexual predators, and pedophiles don't attack with violence. They attack with Mexican lunches and free exercise equipment and being your friend and wanting to make you more competitive in the world. This guy took advantage of a child. We know he took advantage of other children, but because of our law, he escaped that one. But we know there are other victims out there. We know there's one victim of a battery that before the police could finish the investigation, the family said, we're over this. He just grabbed him by the leg. Enough of that. That's not acceptable. We want to, as I say with my vernacular, we want to put him under the jail for a very long time. And there, we believe, anecdotally, from experience in the past, there are other people out there that can help us ensure that he never can be around children again, that he's locked up in the prison system where he needs to be. Okay?
How long is that statute of limitations, and how did that play a role in this particular case?
The statute of limitations at that time, I believe, were 4 years for that particular charge. It varies. Since then, the legislature has changed the statute of limitations, and I believe, depending on the sexual event, that there is no statute of limitations any longer. I haven't had the chance to research that before this press conference, but we've always had no statute of limitation for capital sexual battery on a child under 12. There was a statute of limitations at this time in 2011, but since then the legislature has changed that to where I believe there's no statute of limitations on sexual battery or sexual battery of a child now. I'll have to research that. But I know one thing for sure. August 26th of this year is clearly within the law. And he's going to get him a whole bunch of the courtroom. Yes, sir.
Sheriff, is there any further charges pending or
The-
this case or maybe some tips you've already gotten?
Well, the investigation's still underway. We are looking for other victims at this time. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. God bless you.